In this lesson, we're going to talk about the width and symmetry mates. Let's open up a file from your Chapter 7 folder for Infinite Skills working files. And let's open the width mate assembly. Let's take a look at the existing mates, and we have a coincident mate, a parallel mate, and a width mate. I'm going to delete these last two so we can recreate the mates. If I slide this part back and forth, we can see that it stays oriented on that plane, but we can move it out of the slot and we can even tilt it so it doesn't resemble its original position. So we're going to use two methods to position this part where it belongs. The first method we're going to use is the symmetry mate. The symmetry mate requires the existence of a plane. So let's look into the part and make sure that the part was created with a midplane that goes right down through the tab. And in fact, that's the case, so we're in luck. I'm going to switch now to the Advanced Mates tab and slide up a little bit so I can get the symmetric mate. The plane didn't automatically go into the symmetry plane, so I'm going to clear the selection, select the symmetry plane specifically, and then click on the right plane. In the mate selections, I'm going to first click on one face of this groove and then the other face. And so with this, SOLIDWORKS has established a symmetrical mate. Now, if you didn't have that plane there automatically, if it wasn't there just by nature of the way that you created it, there are a couple of ways to create that plane easily. Let's take a look at one of them. We'll start the plane command, and as you know, the plane interface doesn't have any options, it just has selections. And so you pick what's available to you, and SOLIDWORKS will tell you what it can do with that. So I'll select on this edge, and then I'll select on the midpoint. So SOLIDWORKS will give you a perpendicular plane coincident at that point. That's one way of creating this plane. Now I'm going to clear the selections. You can also select these two faces, and SOLIDWORKS will automatically select for you the midplane option. So that's another good one that works. I'll right-click and clear selections to select another option. Right-click on the edge and select midpoint. Right-click on the other edge and select midpoint. So with two midpoints selected, that constitutes a straight line. And then you can pick another plane to tell SOLIDWORKS to be parallel or perpendicular. So my third reference will be this end face, and the setting there will be perpendicular. In all of those cases, we've got a midplane down through the middle of this tab. When you're creating this plane, make sure to do it in the part's own window. I'll flip back to the assembly here with Control-Tab. If you create the plane within the assembly, then the plane will belong to the assembly and not to the part. You may have some difficulty creating mates between parts if you handle it that way. We've talked about the symmetry mate, and we can get rid of that. Okay, and now with the part unmated, we'll move it. I'm using a space ball or a space mouse to move it. If you wanted to rotate it with the mouse, you can hold down the right mouse button and move the mouse around in order to tilt it back and forth a little bit. Now there's another mate type that you can use, and this is in the Advanced Mates pane just below the symmetric mate. This is called the width. This one is a little more complex to set up, but it doesn't require any reference geometry. It's completely geometry based. So the width selections, I'm going to select this face on the bottom and the corresponding face on the other side. And then change to the tab selections, click on this face and the corresponding face on the other side. So what SOLIDWORKS has done is it is going to evenly space those faces of the tab into the faces of the slot. Those two types of mates achieve pretty much the same thing. and you have the advantage of choosing one that's dependent on reference geometry and the other is dependent on existing part geometry.